Good morning. I am very excited to get to share and report what we did in July during our trip to Honduras. It was towards the end of July that we were there. And since we're talking about Honduras and the trip that we did there, I'd like you to be aware that we are now officially on Honduran time. And if you haven't been there or don't know what that means, I'll explain it real quick. When you are in Honduras, if church is scheduled to start at 10:30, it might start at 10:15, 10:45, 11 o'clock, just whenever they start. So the time is just there for fun, I guess. And that also means if it's scheduled to end at 11:30, it could end at 11:15, 12 o'clock, 12:30. So basically, I have immunity for any time that we end, and you're not allowed to be upset with me. And Carrie isn't here to point it out this morning, so I told her when I left this morning, you won't be able to tell me I went too long. So I want to thank this whole congregation for the support and prayers, encouragement, the finances that you donate so that we can go on this trip year after year. We just can't thank you enough for the level of support. This was our 9th year going to Honduras. The first year was 2011, and it kind of feels like that just went by like that first year that we were there. We had a team of 12 that traveled in July, and I'd like everyone that went, would you please stand if you went on the trip? All right. Now, I also want, if you've gone to Honduras on any one of these 9 trips, will you please stand? Thank you. Now, wait, keep standing for a second, because I want everyone to look around. I can only share so many stories, unless I really do that Honduran time thing, which I'm not. I've picked what I think we can share, but ask these folks about their experience in Honduras, and they all will have good stories to tell, right? None of the bad stuff that happened, just good stories. But you can ask them about their experience. Thank you, guys. And thank you for everyone that continually signs up to go on these trips. So we are continuing to work with Mission Lazarus. I think we feel just as strongly a partnership with them now as we did. There's another one that went. So she wasn't standing up before. So if you have a question, ask Sam. That's your own fault, Sam. But we continue to have a strong relationship with Mission Lazarus. And there were many, many lessons that we learned throughout our week. So what I think we're going to do, or what I plan to do, is go through each day that we were there and tell you about some of the lessons that we learned and came away with, and I hope it's encouraging for you. So Friday is the first day. That's a long day of travel. I think most of us got up around 4:30 in the morning or so, made our way to the airport. Total time in an airplane, about 7.5 hours, maybe 8, including a layover in Miami. Then we load up trucks and drive for 3.5 or 4 hours to the ranch. So that's the whole day. You get up at 4:30 and then hope you make it in time for dinner there. So the lesson learned there, well, you get to see this when you arrive there, so you kind of get rejuvenated getting to see that. But and here's our team of 12 at that same spot, just a beautiful spot to sit. The lesson for that day, patience and endurance. Aiden had kind of given up towards the end of that. That's the best picture I can get of a teenage son on the trip. So Saturday, this is where we got to spend our first 3 nights in Honduras. This is on the coffee farm. The lower level of this house is the original farmhouse on this property. And a group of men came and built this top half on the farmhouse, and that's where we got to stay in there for the first 3 nights. So we got to stay up on the coffee farm. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. This is our living room, dining room, where we would eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner those first 3 days. What a great place to stay. So that Saturday, we jump right in. Our job for the day, and the entire team worked on this, is to work on a patio. So we're laying these bricks out on the coffee farm patio. Now what this is where they dry the coffee. So up in these mountains, the coffee's grown. It looks like a small little cherry, they call it, or a grape, it kind of looks like. They'll pick that. They run it through a machine which rips off all the skin and some of it, and then soak it in a vat of water until the rest of the fruit comes off. And then they lay it out on these patios to dry. And the production of this farm has been going up and up and up. So they need more room to dry the coffee on. And one of the things we talked about as a team is, why the coffee farm? Why work there? We're really just helping out Mission Lazarus and not building a home for somebody. We're not delivering food to a family or doing something like that. And the idea is helping Mission Lazarus and that farm equips them for a longer term impact in that area. Mission Lazarus now employs somewhere between 150 and 180 employees in Honduras. And the more successful this farm is, the more people that they're hiring year after year and changing the area around that mountain. And you'll see some of the changes as we go along. So helping that farm allows Mission Lazarus to have a greater influence in the area. So this is a picture of where we started on Saturday morning, and that's how much we got done at the end of the day Saturday. So maybe, I forget how many rows of patio blocks that was, but it seems real simple until you're down there in the ground doing it. And we also got a little bit ahead of ourselves. We started working before the crew got there, and they immediately undid everything we did and told us to start over. So you make sure your boss shows up before you just start the work. But that was what we worked on Saturday. And I think our lesson for that day, a one-week trip does not solve poverty. We're not going to solve it in 1 week, but consistent, long-term partnership with Mission Lazarus, who's there full-time, makes the lasting difference. And we need to keep that in mind when we go there. Usually go there with that attitude of, all right, I'm here on this mission trip, we're going to save the world. Well, you get 4 working days, 2 travel days, and a day to go to church. We're not solving everything in that time, but we can partner with Mission Lazarus, and they make a lasting difference. So Sunday, one of the things that happens on this mountain is the church is within walking distance of that farm. The church wasn't there years ago. But since Mission Lazarus started working there and has the farm going, and these farm workers pray over the harvest every year, they pray, gather and pray before they work every day, a church springs up down the road. And this is the church that we sponsor here at KOP. So we were able to get up in the morning on Honduran time and walk up the road to church. This is the Portillo Grande Church, and hopefully you've heard that name in our prayers to be praying over this congregation. There was a lot of lessons that we learned on Sunday, and we didn't work a lick. I want to reread the passage from Habakkuk. Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails, and the fields produce no food, and there are no sheep in the pen, and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights. And the reason this verse was so impactful is the preacher there, you see, Julio, that was the verse he used to deliver the sermon that Sunday. And we need to put in a context who he's preaching to. You may have heard some of these stats, but in Honduras, 66% of that congregation lives in poverty. And in the rural, southern areas of Honduras, right where this is, 1 in 5 live in extreme poverty. Extreme poverty is less than $1.90 per day. That's the audience he's preaching this sermon to. And it wasn't a sermon of, woe is me, look at how tough we have it. The fig tree does not bud, there's no grapes on the vines. These are all farmers. That's the work that you have primarily in Honduras. It says, I will rejoice. And ask anyone that went there. There was a lot of joy in that congregation. In fact, that picture back here, that's when we started hearing the sounds of music. On our road up, these guys were singing, clapping, playing music loud. In fact, one of the comments from one of the other congregation that was visiting there was, why do they need to have giant amplifiers in the front when it's such a small congregation? You don't need any kind of amplification. We can hear you. And we figured out they want everyone on that mountain to know who they're praising. They want everyone on that mountain to hear them rejoicing. And they could. You could hear it from far away. And if you were in the front row, you didn't just hear it, you felt it. And there's a lesson to be learned in that. This congregation understands these things. Julio kept saying, I might not have anything in my pocket, but I'm going to rejoice in the Lord. And if I have stuff in my pocket, I'm not relying on that. I'm going to rely on the Lord. That sermon was so powerful to me that it just blew me away that they could read this kind of passage and live it out. There's something else that was going on Sunday. Every week, the congregation will bring something, a little piece of food or something that they can donate, and they put it up front. I don't think we can see it in there. The little black bag on the table behind them. So each member brought some little piece of food, and they'll do this every week, and then give it to someone in the congregation that's in the most need. So these folks that are living not just in poverty, but extreme poverty, are giving and helping out their church family. And Julio in this picture is presenting it to this woman of the congregation who was in need. And they do that whether we're there or not. And we didn't donate anything to that. We didn't know they were doing that. And how powerful of a statement is that? It didn't matter how much they had. Everyone brought their own little thing, and this family wants to help each other out. One of the other things that this church is doing for this woman is helping out her house. This is where she lives. We got to walk by that later in the afternoon on Sunday. There's water running right by their house, and a wall's about to fall down, and the tin roof is leaking. And the congregation said, we're all going to get together and cook tamales and then sell them and help fix our sister's home. The picture on the left is the wall. I don't know how that thing was still standing. It's adobe brick that they're using. And this bedroom, there's 3 bedrooms that are shared by 10 people. So 10 people lived in that home. And this one is the worst. The tin over that bedroom was leaking. So water's running through there. And this congregation is stepping up to help them. And KOP, after hearing that story and coming to see her house, we've committed to buying the materials that they need to fix her house up. The congregation is going to do the work. So the Portillo Grande Church will help fix up this woman's house, and we're going to provide the materials that they need. So our lesson on Sunday is that joy, security, and happiness does not come from your circumstances. It's coming from the Lord. And we see that played out right in front of us because just as Americans, I think we just focus so much on the things that we have and think, man, less than $1.90 a day, I would be miserable. And these folks don't look like that. They don't sound like that. You show up at church and people are clapping and singing and having a good time. So that was a really powerful lesson that we had. This is some of her family in the home. So Monday and Tuesday, both days were the same. We split up into 3 different groups. We had a small group go out and visit families in the villages and neighborhoods around the coffee farm and Portillo Grande Church. And it's kind of like door knocking in Honduras. So what our task was for this small team is to show up at someone's house and just say, hey, we wanted you to know that God cares about you. We have a Bible for you. We want to invite you to a seminar that we're going to have on Wednesday at the Portillo Grande Church. And how can we pray for you? That simple. Just go to people and tell them that. God cares about you. And He sent me here from this far away place, 2,000 miles away, to come tell you that. And how can we pray for you? So we traveled around and got to visit those homes and talk with people, just see what they needed. The challenge with getting around there is that we don't have townhome developments here where you can hit 200 homes in one afternoon. You got to be able to get to all these homes, and you're on a mountain with dirt roads, so you need 4-wheel drive trucks. And I don't know if this will play, but this is a small snippet of what it's like to drive around in Honduras. We'll see if we can make it play. But I think you could tell from Brianna's face, it's very safe and an easy drive around.
You having fun?
Okay.
You all right?
No.
Have noise. That's all right.
Gas it.
I'll explain what happens when this truck comes over. There's boards covering a cavern that is basically like a little bridge.
Such a bad idea.
They were trying to drive over that, and to the right of what you see is just a big drop off. And they made it. You see, they're still here. But that's what some of the traveling is like. So that's your challenge with getting around to visit different homes and hand out Bibles and invite people to come to the seminar. We had another small group that would stay and just keep working on the patio. So we had just the smaller crew laying down stuff for the patio. So I think we had 4 or 5 flip that would on Monday go out and do visits in the neighborhood, 4 or 5 that would stay, work on the patio, and the next day it switched. And I got the hardest job of them all. I had to stay at the cafe at that Mission Lazarus owns and help train Noelia. So she's on the left. She's the farm manager, her and Lillian, how to use the coffee roaster that they purchased this year. So we got to play with that machine. And in those 2 days, I think we roasted about 185 pounds of coffee. So it was not much work for me. That was more fun. But one other thing about the coffee and this farm and us trying to help this farm be more productive, the coffee that you're drinking back here, that's grown on that mountain. So in a way, the more coffee that you drink back there, the more you're supporting Mission Lazarus and the work that's going on down there. So feel free to just keep going. You'll only support them all the more. So one of the, there's a real powerful story, hopefully I can get through now, on one of our home visits. I want you to look at the faces in that picture. And I wasn't here, I'm hearing this story, but when our group pulled up to this home and started talking to this family, Julio's sharing with them the Bible and talking to them, and the man in this picture, I forget who was who, one was 80 and one was 84, and I can't tell. So the man stopped Julio, said, wait a minute, you keep saying the name Jesus, and I don't know who that is. I never heard of the guy. Who's Jesus? Let that sink in for a minute. They traveled so out somewhere that this couple did not know who Jesus was. So Julio goes into preacher mode, and he started telling them who Jesus was and using that Bible that we were going to have for them. And while he's talking to them, their faces change, and they go from hiding behind a fence, thinking, who are you people? Because not only do I now know who Jesus was, they don't know who you weird Americans are either, who just showed up in the middle of nowhere. So Julio preaches to them, explains to them who Jesus is, and at the end, they said, I want to know more about that guy. I'm excited about this, and I believe what you're telling me. That's what this is all about. I could stop right now, and this family ends up coming out from behind that fence, joyful, and knowing who Jesus is. That was the powerful moment that we had on Monday and Tuesday. I'm telling you, getting to just talk with people and pray with people and deliver that message that God cares for you is greater than any patio, any home, all the food we could deliver, all those sort of things. Just getting to do that, that's what it's all about. So our lesson for Monday and Tuesday is that everyone wants to know they are loved. Everyone wants to know they're cared for and that they have a purpose. That was our lesson for Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday, that morning, the whole team began working on the patio again. We got as far as we could, so that was Wednesday morning, continuing work on the patio. And that was, by the time we got to lunch, that was it. We were wrapping up our work for the day. So this is us and our work crew, the security guard that's on the coffee farm. This farm right now, just to give you some stats, is producing roughly 20,000 pounds of coffee a year. They're hoping to double that in the next 3 years and then keep going. There's a lot of land that they can grow coffee on, so they're getting more and more efficient. So when church is done, go get a cup of coffee. So Wednesday afternoon, we got to have the seminar that we were holding, that we had invited the neighborhood to. We had, I counted roughly 20 adults and 40 kids, which was real close to what worship was like on Sunday. They have just about twice as many kids as they have adults at the Prussia Grande Church. So this was, I thought, a real neat picture that we had. Before we started the seminar, the entire KOP team was standing behind Julio as he introduced us, and then we got to sing a few songs for them. And then we broke out into the seminar. We had Mark Pagenkopf was leading the adult seminar, so all the adults stayed in. Our topic was the body of Christ, and what does it mean to be in the body of Christ. And then we also had the kids outside. They have some little tables right outside the church building, so they did some crafts. They made a little cross necklace and colored, and then we said when all else fails, you just get out the soccer ball and then you're good. And then the adults will come out too. They would like to play soccer. So that was our Wednesday. And there was something that we noticed, and it's kind of captured in this picture when Mark was teaching. We noticed whenever there was a verse that had to be read, everyone's head was down in that book looking for it and reading. They were so engaged in this lesson and learning more. And one of the things that a story that just hit me real hard when Julio was doing the translation for Mark. And as we're going through and reading verses, Julio started going, wow, wow, wow. And then I was ready to start counting how many times he said wow with some verse that just really grabbed him. And when he could see where Mark was going in his lesson, in fact, a couple of times he asked Mark to stop so he could start preaching on this verse he just was impressed with. And instead of doing the translation, he'd say, Mark, hang on a second. And then he would talk for 5 or 10 minutes about this cool verse he had just read, and then say, okay, now you can start again. But how many times he said, wow, and also this congregation just being so into the Word was powerful. So the lesson that I pulled away from that is the Portillo Grande Church and the surrounding neighbors, because not everyone was a member there that showed up for the seminar. They have a hunger to know who God is. And one of the things that solidified that idea that we had is when we drove home and we're heading back to the airport, the thing that Julio was asking us for is Bible lessons and plans what are some outlines I can have to use? Because he saw something going on with Mark and how he was able to teach a class. And he said, I need more information. I need outlines. I want to be able to feed this congregation. They have a hunger to know God, and they're eager to learn and grow. That was a powerful takeaway for us. So then Thursday, we're starting to wrap up our trip. So Thursday we only have the morning until about lunchtime before we have to start driving back to the Capitol, which is a 3.5, 4 hour truck ride there. We got to visit the vocational schools that Mission Lazarus runs, their education program, a medical clinic that they have. So I want to show, on the right is the vocational schools where they have the leather work and the sewing school, and on the left is their education program. So if any kid that's signed up in their program will alternate back and forth between these buildings. You'll go to vocational school one day, and then the next day you'll go to school. So you're learning a trade, something that's valuable for them, but you're also having to go to class and go to school and get an education, which is powerful there. Because one of the things that happens in Honduras is if you're in this kind of poverty group, you end up dropping out of school at 3rd grade so you can go help your parents make some money, and you'll go work on the farm. So you end up with a 3rd grade education and you're stuck where you are. So with the Mission Lazarus program, they get that education as well as a trade. And to show how efficiently Mission Lazarus works, we were at this site almost to the year, 1 year before, and this is what it looked like. So we come back in 1 year, and it's not just done, it's painted, it's functional, there's people in it working, the insides are done, it's furnished. It was amazing to see the progress that happened. So this is where the leather work goes on there, which is an incredible step up from what they were in before, which was basically a lean-to out in the woods on a crazy road. And I've called myself a walking commercial for Mission Lazarus Artisan Goods. So if you'd like to understand their craftsmanship, just come see me. I'm wearing their boots, my wallet, my Bible, and my bracelet. I also have a few belts at home, but I didn't wear that one today. But if you'd like to see their craftsmanship, it is top notch. Yeah, and my shirt. Well, I don't think they sewed the shirt. I think they just bought that. Just incredible work that gives these kids some skills that they can use going forward. I think that was part of the sewing and the educational rooms that were on the other side. And that's the educational, some kids in class. So my lesson for Thursday is that Mission Lazarus is fully committed to making a difference in Honduras. And they're not satisfied with the status quo. These kind of big changes that we've seen from 1 year to the next, with a building going from just some block and really rough looking to being completely finished, that happens every year we go down there. We're seeing new things all the time. And I don't have a photo of this, but I got to do a follow-up trip a week ago and just spend 4 days in Honduras working on that coffee roaster, because when I was there in July, I found a whole bunch of things that weren't right with it. And I gave Jared Brown a list of parts and said, I'll order them for you. You can use these to put on the machine. And he said, why don't you come do it? And you don't have to ask me twice to go to Honduras and work on a coffee roaster. So I went down and did that. But lo and behold, there was a groundbreaking ceremony for a huge new school that is going up on the Mission Lazarus property, K through 12. They're going to build this school. And the mayor of Tegucigalpa was there, the governor of Choluteca, and the mayor of San Marcos de Colon were there for the groundbreaking. And it was all run by Hondurans, the whole event. And it was neat to see Jared Brown, who founded Mission Lazarus and runs Mission Lazarus. When we asked him about the groundbreaking ceremony, he said, I don't know what's going on. They are doing it all. They're turning this over to the Hondurans and paying them to do it. These full-time employees, and they put on a spectacular groundbreaking ceremony to get this going. So they are fully committed to improvements and growth at Mission Lazarus. This is the carpentry school. Oh man, how many years is it that they run through the program? 6? 3. So these guys are the newest group to get into the carpentry program. This is their first year in, and we got to meet these guys working at the carpentry school. This is the medical clinic that's on the Mission Lazarus Ranch. And you're free to go get dental work done there. Sorry, Mike. Oh, he left. So they do offer that for you if you want while you're there. So in closing, it was a phenomenal trip. I'm already looking forward to next year. And overall, my lesson from the trip, which I relearn every single year, is that God has blessed me with a whole lot of things. He's given me way more than I need, and I'm reminded of that when I come to places like this. And even though I've done it every one of these years, I need that reminder every year that I have all these things, and I have a responsibility of what I do with those things. I need to be responsible with what God's given me and not just build a bigger thing to hold them all in or find a bigger house or a cooler car. I want to be responsible with those things and not just send it all down to Honduras. You can do it here. Just be wise with these things that God has given us. So that's my overall lesson for the trip, just about every year. I hope this is encouraging to you. I hope you want to go to Honduras. I hope you want to join us one of these years, but most of all, I hope that you see God working in your life just like we do in Honduras. We can see God moving through all these things, and He's doing that in your life too, whether you realize it or not, or just invite Him in to do those things. So I hope you come away encouraged with those, with the things that are going on in your life and in here in Honduras. And please talk to those that have gone before and ask them. I apologize to everyone on the team because I know I've only shared a tiny bit of the stories and information. I think I got about 500 pictures and 19 videos from everyone on the team. We can't play them all. So please talk with them, and thank you for your support.